I wanted to share one of the earlier pieces I remember seeing from the Meitcheter, which I probably saw this for the first time when I was 17 years old. I think I picked the Meitcheter, the chiddush Meitcheter for the first time in high school because I like going to the library and picking up exotics for him, which nobody else had ever spoken about, and those ones I picked up. And then later, when I came to yeshiva and shalvim, though there was one on the shelf, of course. So I picked a use that intrigued me, and I picked it up from time to time to see what he had to say. And I even have some notes on the side of my Meitcheter back from the day. And the, um, one of the pieces which I like very much when learning Ksuvas, which is uh, which was my second year yeshiva, was about Ger Kattan. And I'm going to just very briefly say what he says, and I think it shows his Iluyish bent of mind. A Ger Kattan is, of course, a child who's converted, who has no father, and therefore the court has to step in and perform the conversion because there's no father to carry through in the process. Sometimes there is a mother, sometimes there isn't a mother. The question is what the role of the mother is. But in any event, the question there becomes is when this convert, who's a child, converts, is a conversion a rabbinic conversion or a Torah level conversion, the Rabbanon or the Raisa? The Tosfos there, of course, the classical medieval commentary, gives two possibilities. He says it's possible that it's rabbinic, and there's another possibility that comes to the minute that it's even a Torah conversion, depending on the circumstances. The Tosfos asks a question. He says, how can it work? How can you convert a child who has no intentionality of his own? So who's working the intentionality? So Tosfos discusses this, and he has this idea of zechia. Zechia means when we bestow something which is a merit for you, something which is advantageous to you, we bestow that halacha, that concept, that object, whatever it might be, we bestow it upon you, and you become, so to speak, the owner of the object. So here, it's an extension of the concept, and we bestow upon you the concept of Judaism. And that's, Tosfos says, that only probably works midrabanan, because at the rabbinic level, because on the Torah level, there is no schia, there's no concept of bestowing something on a child, because zechia mitam shlichus. Bestowing is a derivative of agency, and minors don't have agency. They have agency on a rabbinic level, but not on a Torah level. So if we can bestow a status upon you, it's only because you have agency, and agency only applies to adults on a Torah level. Then Tosfos says, we know what there is a way in which it might work even at a Torah level, and without getting into right now, there is a reason why Tosfos needs it to work at a Torah level for a different Gemara elsewhere in Shas. He says if a mother converts when she's pregnant, and the fetus is also a convert, and that conversion, says the Tosfos, work is a Torah level conversion because the immersion in the mikveh, which the mother undergoes, works for the fetus as well on a Torah level. So the Meitcheter comes along and asks a couple of questions on this. He says, I understand, okay, we can bestow perhaps the status of Judaism on somebody because it's great to be a Jew. And we can bestow things which are advantageous to a person on a person, even if he doesn't have intention, his own independent intentionality. But how can going to the mikveh work? Going to the mikveh is a mitzvah which you have to do in order to become a convert. And it has to be done with the intention of conversion. And the court can't go to the mikveh for you. You have to go to the mikveh for yourself. And you have to do the mitzvah of going to the mikveh on your own. So how does zechia work in order to make this an effective going to the mikveh? Same thing with the bris milah, but he focuses on going to the mikveh. And the second question he asks is that, again, with the mother as well, okay, the mother perhaps can affect the tefillah for the child, but again, how is the child fulfilling his mitzvah of tefillah for the purpose of conversion? So the Meitcheter comes up with a fascinating idea, which is that, and it's really in the Rambam, almost explicit in the Rambam, and I wanted to share the Rambam's language because it's I think the idea of the Meitcheter, if you understand the Meitcheter's premise, it actually is almost explicit in the Rambam. The Rambam says, when a non-Jew, when a non-Jew wants to enter the covenant, and be under the shadow or the shade of the divine presence, the Kabbalah of the old Torah, he accepts upon himself the yoke of Torah. Tzarich milah utfilah v'atzat korban. He has to have a circumcision and go to the mikveh and bring a sacrificial offering. If you're nekevahi, if it's a female, tfilah v'korban. She has to go to the mikveh and she has to bring a korban. Now, for the Rambam is saying, and the Meitcheter again says this principle, but I don't think you pick it up unless you see the Meitcheter say it. He says, Tevila, getting the milah and going to the mikveh are not what makes one a ger, are not what affects the conversion. When you convert, you have to fulfill mitzvos. And the first mitzvahs you fulfill as a convert are going to the bris milah and the tefillah. Again, because like the Rambam says, he says, when he yikabalev otorah, he accepts myself the yoke of Torah, tzarich milah utfilah. You have to go and get circumcised and go to the mikveh. So it says the Meitcheter, it's not that you have that the milah and the tefillah are the conversion. A milah and tefillah are the first mitzvahs which you have to fulfill as a Jew once you're converted. And since the mitzvahs and the conversion are connected to each other, so therefore that is what completes your conversion process. You decide to become a Jew, and then you undergo these mitzvahs, and then you're Jewish. But really the conversion is distinct from these mitzvahs. It's just that these mitzvahs are necessary in order to complete the conversion. So therefore the Meitcheter says, if we understand that, and I'm oversimplifying because the Meitcheter was an Illui and he goes into a lot of ramifications, but for our purposes, we'll keep it simple. The Meitcheter says, now you can understand very simply how it works here. The way it works that all we need is, in fact, the bestowing of the merit of being Jewish on the child. And once we bestow that merit of being Jewish, perhaps the agency is only rabbinic, and according to Tosfos' first approach, it's only rabbinic conversion. But once we bestow on a child, now the child has to do a mitzvah. A child is not obligated to do mitzvahs. A mitzvah a child does is a mitzvah. So therefore, when we take the child to the mikveh, that's not the act of conversion. That's the mitzvah a child fulfills in order to complete the conversion, because a convert has to fulfill mitzvahs, and these are the mitzvahs he has to fulfill first. So therefore, it's not a question. The question was, how can he do this conversion ritual? It's not a conversion ritual. It's a regular mitzvah. The conversion was done with the intentionality of accepting the yoke of Torah. And now, the mitzvahs which complete that, you have to do a mitzvah. Even a child who does a mitzvah, that mitzvah is an act of doing a mitzvah, and therefore the conversion is complete. And the same thing when the mother goes to the mikvah. So in that case, the mother's intentionality works for the child as well. And therefore, in the case where she's pregnant with the child, so therefore the mother's intentionality works for the child. Again, the question was, yes, but what about the conversion ritual of the going to the mikveh? So the halacha is that the mother's body is not considered to be a chatzitza in going to the mikveh. It's not considered a barrier in going to the mikveh for a child who's the fetus, because the Gemara says the hainu revise. That's the normal way in which a child is carried in that way, and it's as if the child himself is exposed to the water, just like the inside of the body doesn't have to be exposed to the mikveh. So to the child, it doesn't have to be exposed directly to the mikveh as long as it's in a normal fashion inside the mother. So therefore, the Meitcheter says that's how can he work on a Torah level. Because if the intentionality, when it's a fetus, the mother's intentionality works even for the child, again, there's no ritual required. There's only a mitzvah to be done. And that mitzvah is done when the mother goes to the mikveh. So this, again, I wanted to point out this the brilliance of the Meitcheter in the innovative way of thinking, which is a classic Illui cup, which is that we normally think, and to use terms which from another school of thought, we normally think of the milah and tefillah as the siba. They're the cause of the conversion. They're not. They're like a symptom. They're a symptom or a manifestation of the conversion. And that where the Illui asks us, change your entire orientation. Don't look at it the way you looked at it till now in the conventional way. Look at it in a non-conventional way. But ultimately, you see, it's beautiful. It makes a lot of sense. and it opens up many new doors. Again, as I said, I'm just oversimplifying. Many new doors of thought to think about ramifications, and for a young kid like myself, as 17 years old, coming across this way of thinking, it was eye opening and mind boggling. And the Meitcheter's approach to learning and his impact on Jewish life in Lithuania, in America, should be a tremendous chus, tremendous merit for you, mostly family, tremendous chus of us, an unbelievable merit of your your ancestors, and it should be a tremendous source of nachas to his neshama that we gather together and talk about his Torah today.